Bob Seeley is Conservative MP. He's a member of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee. He's also chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Russia, and he joins us right now. Good morning to you, Bob.
Good morning, Julie. Good morning to you.
Thank you very much for joining us. There is no doubt at all there is real concern, world leaders speaking out, and obviously President Zelensky of Ukraine speaking out about this attack on this dam, the Nova Kakhovka Dam. And some are saying, it's the steps too far. This is a terrible, breach. This is a war crime. I'm kind of the view that torturing and raping people is kind of, in my mind, a worse war crime than this. But there's no doubt at all the impact of this explosion at this dam, whatever the cause, has been huge and is a real concern, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive. And clearly it's caused a great deal of distress to humans, and it may well have cost human life, possibly on the Ukrainian side, maybe more likely on the Russian side, because I suspect the Russian soldiers didn't know about it either. I suspect it's been done by the Russian military to throw a spanner into the works of the Ukrainian assault, the big Ukrainian counteroffensive. Whether it achieves that is another matter.
Yeah, indeed. And now there's no doubt at all that this is having an impact on what is going to happen with the counter-offensive by Ukraine as well. And one of the arguments is who's responsible for this. A, the explosion was in Soviet-controlled territory, and B, who loses out the most from this? It would appear to be the Ukrainian forces. So we've got the immediate impact of people, homes being underwater, lack of drinking water. There've been the concerns about the nuclear plant upstream. They seem to have been somewhat allayed. But there is this concern about how much Vladimir Putin might be willing and his generals to escalate this sort of action in the face of a counter-offensive by Ukraine. Is there anything the West can do about that?
I think the simple answer is that the quicker the Ukrainians win this war, the better. And so we need to arm them to finish the job, although that comes with risk. There's two questions there. Would the Russians do something stupid with Zaporozhye or with nuclear weapons? The answer is possibly, depending on the circumstances. We shouldn't rule it out. And I think nuclear use is higher than we think, although it's still low. Yeah. But we have to put ourselves in Putin's ruthless mindset. Yep. And if he's willing to blow up dams and willing to blow and cause huge environmental destruction, he might be willing to do the same with Zaporozhye. Yeah. The first question there about whether it takes up the damage to the Ukrainian assault, the counteroffensive, I think one shouldn't oversell that argument. The only thing that was going to come across that bit of the Dnipro, I feel fairly confident in saying this, would have been small-scale diversionary assaults by Ukrainian special forces to soak up Russian resources, to soak up, to sort of produce military feints. The main thrust for the armor and the tanks and the stuff that you need ground for, and you can't just push this stuff across rivers easily. It's a massive exercise. Was always going to come further along in the south. Yeah. And in the east. Yeah. But what the Russians have done is create confusion, soak up government resources and maybe military resources dealing with an environmental disaster.
You already did horrific footage of people having to flee their homes, but also big concerns, people claiming that the Russians, stealing their boats, destroying their boats and trying to stop them from getting out of that region. At the beginning of the week, the conversations were very much about President Zelensky and his advisors and others saying, look, we need more munitions. We're prepared for this counteroffensive, but we need to have everything in place as soon as possible. There is still a long wait for those jets that have been promised and the training, obviously, of the pilots for jets. There's still, a long wait for a lot of the equipment, the heavy equipment like the tanks, to actually get there. Can we realistically see a strong counteroffensive by the Ukrainians before those key armaments arrive?
Okay, you're going to see a very strong counteroffensive by the Ukrainians because there are three bits of military thinking that if you ask a British soldier what constitutes an army, they'll say the thinking capacity, the conceptual ideas, maneuver warfare, which the Ukrainians are getting to grips with better than the Russians. There's morale, and Ukrainians are way ahead on that, but there's also the kit, and the Ukrainians are catching up with that. The planes are irrelevant because if you can close airspace, you've got half the problem solved. What the Ukrainians need is enough basic kit. It's almost like the 155, the shells, the artillery shells they need in mass amounts. And that's actually potentially their critical area of either strength and weakness, just to be able to engage massively, because I think all of us underestimate the actual resources you need to fight a conventional war. It's vast.
Yeah, well, indeed. I mean, we discovered a few months ago that if Britain had been attacked by Russia in this scenario, we would have run out of all of our munitions by now. I mean, this was a few months ago. It's a bit of a reality check about our preparation. Didn't have enough PPE. We don't have enough bullets either.
I agree. It's very poor. Oh, look, we need to get a grip with this stuff because we live in a much more dangerous world, and all these so-called black swan events are happening with, sadly, increased regularity.
Yeah, indeed. Can I also ask you about the black sheep now, as opposed to the black swan? Front of the Times today, Sunak ready to approve Johnson's honours list. Now, resignation honours have been something of a battle over many, many years. I mean, I've said David Cameron's, I thought, I think there were honours for, his hairdresser and things like that. I think that, frankly, they've very much demeaned the honours system, even more than it was already demeaned. Let's face it, people have been able to buy honours for many, many years, or centuries even. But the Times has learnt that the Prime Minister will accept Boris Johnson's 50-strong resignation honours list because there's been so much acrimony between the two men over the WhatsApps and everything else. And, of course, the Prime Minister currently has been blamed by the former Prime Minister for ousting him from the job. But this will include honours for Nadine Dorries, now of TalkTV, the former Culture Secretary, and the former COP26 President, Alok Sharma. Both are expected to stand down to take peerages. That will mean by-elections in the autumn. There's been quite a battle over these honours. Should the honours go through? The Prime Minister has the right to give as many honours as he wants. They're presidents. But fundamentally, if he wants to give honours, he can give honours. Or should Rishi Sunak say, no, some of these are inappropriate?
I think Rishi's attitude is the following, that he wants to draw a line under this. He is one of his great qualities is he's completely focused on stuff. And what he's focused on is delivering his 5 pledges and then building a manifesto next year that's going to give us a chance in the next election to win it. OK, we have got a job to do, and anything happens about Boris is frankly noises off. It's in the past, and the more we can just say, OK, I think Rishi's attitude is, OK, have your honours. I'm not going to waste any more time on this. We need to be delivering on our 5 targets for this year, and then getting tax cuts in place for next year, sorting out our economy, and doing the things that government needs to be doing, leading our country. And anything to do with Boris is frankly. It is a distraction with the best, will in the world. I love Boris. He was great. He played a fantastic role in Brexit. He's a phenomenal campaigner. He is no longer Prime Minister. He ain't going to be Prime Minister again. Rishi is, and Rishi's going to be fighting hard to win that next election, and we need to be focused on that. Can
I ask you just finally, you've got so many, these will be MPs that'll be standing down. They've already said we're going to stand down. They're going to get their peerage. There's a reason for that. They've got other careers. There are also an awful lot of MPs who are young and old on the Tory benches who are saying, I'm going to leave. A lot of those are in seats which perhaps face a big threat either from Labour in the Red Wall or from the Liberal Democrats in the old Tory shires. An awful lot of people standing down. We also had the news today that Green Party from leader Caroline Lucas standing down as an MP as well. An awful lot of people don't seem to think that they want to be in Parliament after the next gen election, or don't expect certainly to be in power. Like Green Party have been in power, as we know, for some years, but just no one told us. Are you planning to shuffle off the MP's payroll, or are you confident that it's going to be worth staying around?
I love my job. Representing the Isle of Wight in Parliament is the best job in the world. I've been selected to fight. Well, it's been split into 2, so we get 2 seats. So I've been selected for the West Wight seat, which is where I am at the moment. And if the good people of the Isle of Wight want me to represent them, the Isle of Wight West want me to represent them at the next election, I would be honoured to do so, because it is the best job in the world.
All right, then. Bob Silly, appreciate that Conservative MP there. 8:32 is the time. This is Talk Breakfast.